I stood alone in the grand ballroom of the Haeundae Ocean Palace Hotel, on the top floor, where the floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the gray, restless sea of Busan. Above me hung a wedding canopy made of imported white peonies, cascading orchids, hand-strung crystal lights, and silk ribbons so delicate they moved every time the air conditioning whispered through the room. That canopy alone was worth 92 million won. In less than 11 minutes, 360 guests, from some of the wealthiest families in Busan, would begin walking through those doors. Lawyers, clinic owners, investment heirs, hotel executives, women wearing real diamonds, and men who measured status by silence rather than noise. They were all coming to witness my older sister, Han Minji, marry into the Park family. But I was not standing there as a bridesmaid. I was not holding a bouquet. I was holding a black radio in my right hand, and with one sentence, I could order my crew to tear the entire dream apart. Every flower, every crystal strand, every imported orchid, every light. Every inch of the stage my sister had been bragging about for 8 months. The funniest part was that 12 hours earlier, my own mother had texted me and told me not to come. Seo-yoon, it would be better if you stayed away tomorrow. The Park family is very traditional. Minji does not need your dark energy on the most important day of her life. That was what she wrote. Not a phone call. Not a conversation. Just a message at 9:18 on a Friday night, dismissing me from my own sister's wedding like an unwanted stain on a white dress. For 32 years, my family thought I was the failure, the quiet daughter, the strange one who worked with flowers and lights and temporary beauty. They told people I decorated small cafes and birthday parties for extra money. They let their friends believe I was barely surviving. They laughed when Minji called me the hired flower girl of the family. What they did not know was that I was the founder of Aurelia Event Studio, one of the most exclusive event design companies in South Korea. What they did not know was that the fairy tale wedding stage downstairs, the one Minji had used to impress the Park family, belonged to me. And what they definitely did not know was that my father, Han Dae-sik, had just submitted a forged bank transfer receipt to steal 92 million won of services from his own daughter's company. So when I stood beneath that canopy, listening to the soft click of my crew's equipment waiting behind the service doors, I was not deciding whether to ruin my sister's wedding. I was deciding whether to stop letting my family steal from me one last time. And before I tell you what I said into that radio, take a second to like this video and subscribe if you have ever been treated like the person your family only remembers when they need something. Drop your age and where you are watching from in the comments, because stories like this reach people who have been silent for far too long. Now, let me take you back to the night before the wedding, to the exact moment the Han family crossed a line they could never uncross. It was raining in Busan, the kind of cold spring rain that turns the city lights into long, blurry lines on the pavement. I was in my private design studio, checking the final lighting sketches for a corporate gala in Seoul. My studio smelled faintly of jasmine, warm wiring, and fresh paper. On the far table, 3 assistants had left swatches of cream silk, pearl mesh, and translucent acrylic panels for Monday's review. I remember feeling calm. A little tired, yes, but calm. Minji's wedding was the next day, and even though I had been quietly overseeing the design for months, I had convinced myself I could simply attend as a guest, sit in the back row, smile politely, and go home. Then my phone lit up. A message from my mother. "Oh, Hiran." I read it once, then twice, then a third time, because there is a certain kind of cruelty that is so familiar you almost expect it, and yet it still finds a new way to hurt. She said the Park family cared deeply about reputation. She said Minji needed everything to feel seamless. She said my presence might make people uncomfortable. She did not say, "Your sister does not want you there." She did not say, "We are ashamed of you." She used prettier words, because my mother was always good at making rejection sound like etiquette. I set the phone face down. I did not reply. I did not cry. I did not call my father. I did not ask Minji what I had done wrong, because I already knew the answer. I had existed too, honestly. In the Han family, Minji was the daughter who photographed well. She went to international school. She studied piano for 7 years even though she hated practicing. She was sent to Europe after graduation to broaden her perspective, which really meant my parents paid for her shopping trips and wine tastings while telling everyone she was building cultural sophistication. Minji knew how to smile in the right direction, how to tilt her chin in photos, how to enter a room as if applause were waiting somewhere nearby. I was different. I liked design plans, shadows, wiring diagrams, flowers before they bloomed, the moment a room became more than a room because light hit it at the right angle. My parents never understood that. To them, anything not connected to social climbing was a hobby. Anything not easy to brag about at dinner was a disappointment. The first time Minji stole from me, I was 18. I had spent nearly 4 months creating a stage lighting portfolio for an art scholarship. It was full of hand-drawn renderings, color studies, and miniature models made from wire and tracing paper. I had stayed up until 3 in the morning on school nights, teaching myself how to make light feel emotional on paper. 2 days before the submission deadline, the portfolio disappeared from my room. I found out later that Minji had taken it, replaced the cover page with her own name, and used it to apply for a summer arts program. When I confronted her, she rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic. My mother told me, "Your sister needs this opportunity more than you do. You are younger, you can make another one." My father said, "Do not embarrass the family over drawings." And that was the lesson I learned. In my family, my talent only mattered when it could be used to lift Minji higher. So when my mother told me not to attend the wedding, I should have felt nothing. But somewhere deep inside, the old wound opened again. I had designed the wedding stage in secret, not because Minji deserved it, not because my parents had earned my generosity, but because some weak, stubborn part of me still wanted to make something beautiful for a family that had never known what to do with my beauty. I turned off my personal phone that night and went to sleep believing I would spend Saturday alone. I had no idea that by sunrise, the illusion my family had built around itself would begin collapsing under the weight of its own lies. The emergency line rang at 6:40 the next morning. Not my personal phone. That was still off. It was the black company phone I kept beside my bed for critical event problems, the number only senior staff used when something had gone very wrong. I answered before the second ring. "Director Han," Nari said, and I could hear panic beneath her professional tone. Nari was my lead coordinator, a woman so composed she once handled a power outage during a Seoul fashion gala without smudging her lipstick. Hearing her sound frightened made me sit up immediately. "Talk to me," I said. "We have a payment problem at Hyundai Ocean Palace," she said. "The final 92 million won has not cleared. The production crew is refusing to complete the installation." My first thought was that the bank had delayed something. It happens. Large transfers sometimes get flagged. But then, Nari lowered her voice. Finance ran a second verification. The transfer confirmation sent by Han Dae-sik is fake. For a moment I did not breathe. The room felt too quiet. "Fake how?" I asked. "The transaction code does not exist. The bank seal was digitally altered. The reference number belongs to a cancelled transaction from years ago. There is no transfer pending." No money moved. I closed my eyes. There are moments when betrayal stops being emotional and becomes mathematical. My father had not forgotten a payment. He had not made a mistake. He had created a fraudulent document and sent it to my company, hoping we would finish the installation before the bank could expose the lie. He had tried to steal 92 million won from me without even knowing it was me, Nari continued, her voice tighter now. "There is one more thing. Mrs. O pulled me aside in the bridal suite. She gave me a phone number. She said her youngest daughter, Seo Yoon, has some savings from doing little flower jobs. She asked me to call you and see if you could provide a temporary loan to save the wedding." I stared at the wall. Then I laughed once, softly, not because it was funny, but because the cruelty was almost elegant in its stupidity. My mother had banned me from the wedding because I was not good enough to be seen. Now she wanted a stranger to call me and ask for my money. She wanted me to fund the very event I had been excluded from. "Nari," I said, and my voice sounded different even to me. "Do not unload another stem. Do not activate another light. Tell Baek Min-soo to secure all equipment and lock the loading dock vehicles. Nobody touches my property until I arrive." "Yes, Director." I ended the call and sat there for several seconds. The rain tapped softly against the window. The city below was waking up. Somewhere across town, my sister was probably having her makeup done, convinced she was hours away from becoming Mrs. Park Teo. Then someone knocked on my front door. It was Kang Yura, my sister-in-law. She stood under a black umbrella, wearing a navy coat and carrying a leather laptop bag. Yura was married to my older brother, Junho, and she worked as a forensic auditor for a financial firm. She had the kind of eyes that made liars start explaining themselves before she asked a question. She stepped inside, closed the umbrella, and said, "Your parents are bankrupt. No greeting, no warm-up, just the truth." We sat at my kitchen island while she opened her laptop. She had been looking into my parents' finances because they had been calling Junho for money for months, always with vague excuses. A temporary cash shortage, a delayed investment return, a tax issue. Yura had smelled rot under the perfume. By 7:10 that morning, she showed me the entire corpse. My parents' apartment in Busan had been refinanced twice. The second loan was 96 days overdue. Their credit card debt was over 180 million won. Their liquid assets were below 4.5 million won. My father had drained retirement savings to maintain memberships, dinners, designer appearances, and Minji's lifestyle. The family wealth was theater. Every handbag, every hotel brunch, every whispered claim about investments had been a prop. Then Yura clicked to another page. "And this," she said, "is my personal favorite." My mother had been telling everyone that Madame Choi Eun-kyung, mother of the groom, had given Minji a pearl necklace worth 120 million won as a family blessing. Yura showed me a transaction from the night before. A purchase from a discount luxury imitation site. 790,000 won. Synthetic pearls, gold-plated clasp. Paid with a prepaid card after 2 credit cards declined. "There is no necklace from Madame Choi," Yura said. "Your mother bought a fake one so Minji could pretend the Park family had already accepted her as an equal." I looked at the screen and felt something inside me go cold and clean. My family was not just broke. They were not just desperate. They were staging an entire reality with fake money, fake pearls, fake transfers, and borrowed status. And my company was the stage they planned to stand on. By 8, Yura and I were in her car heading toward Haeundae. The hotel rose over the coastline like a blade of glass. Outside the entrance, luxury cars lined the drive. Black sedans, imported SUVs, chauffeurs in gloves. Guests were already beginning to arrive for early photos and tea service. I stepped out wearing a cream suit, my hair tied back, my Aurelia Event Studio credentials hanging from my neck. I did not look like the useless daughter my mother had described. I looked like someone who had built the room they were all about to enter. My mother saw me the moment I crossed the lobby. Oh Hye-ran was dressed in pale gold hanbok-inspired silk, her hair pinned perfectly, her face arranged into the expression she used for other people's wealth. But when she saw me, the mask cracked. She rushed over, grabbed my arm, and hissed, "What are you doing here? I told you not to come. Do you have any idea what kind of people are here today? You do not belong in this place." I looked down at her hand, then slowly removed her fingers from my sleeve. "Did you secure the 92 million won for the forged transfer my father sent?" I asked, her face emptied. All the anger vanished so quickly it almost looked like fear had slapped it off. "What?" she whispered. "The forged transfer," I said. "The one you used to keep my crew working." Before she could answer, Nari appeared from the direction of the service corridor, holding the master production file. She stopped beside me and bowed slightly. "Director Han, the crew is waiting for your instruction." My mother's eyes moved from Nari to the folder, then to the badge on my chest. Han Seo-yoon, founder. Aurelia Event Studio. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. In that moment, 32 years of assumptions crashed into one line of printed text. The daughter she had hidden from guests was the owner of the company making the wedding beautiful. "You?" she breathed. "You own Aurelia?" "Yes," I said. "And my father tried to steal from me." I left her standing in the lobby and walked toward the bridal suite with Yura and Nari behind me. I could hear Minji before I saw her. Her voice cut through the hallway, high and sharp, scolding someone about the wrong shade of white in her hair flowers. The bridal suite smelled of hairspray, perfume, champagne, and panic. 6 bridesmaids stood in matching blush dresses, silent and tense. Minji was in the center of the room wearing a silk robe, her makeup flawless, her eyes furious. When she saw me, she pointed like I was dirt tracked onto a clean floor. "Who let you in?" she snapped. "You were told not to come. Are you really so pathetic that you had to force your way into my wedding?" I did not answer. I walked to the vanity, opened the master contract, and placed it on the marble surface. The sound of paper hitting stone was louder than it should have been. "Read it," I said. Minji rolled her eyes, but she looked down. At first, she saw the Aurelia logo, the one she had been bragging about for months. Then she saw the itemized design list: imported orchids, suspended crystal lighting, peony canopy, ocean view stage wash, silk aisle runners. Then she reached the signature page. Han Seo-yoon, founder and creative director. I watched the color drain from her face. It was not gradual. It disappeared as if someone had pulled a plug. "No," she whispered. "This is fake." Nari stepped forward, polite and deadly. "It is a legally binding contract, Miss Han. Your family is in breach due to failure of final payment clearance and submission of fraudulent banking documentation." Minji stumbled back. I looked at her, and for a second I saw the 18-year-old girl who had taken my portfolio and smiled while I was punished for objecting. "You took my drawings once," I said quietly. "You used my work to open doors for yourself. Today, you tried to take my stage, my lights, my flowers, and my labor to walk into the Park family. But this time, I am not the silent little sister anymore." Her eyes filled with tears, but they were not tears of guilt. They were tears of fear. "Seo-yoon, please," she said. "This is my wedding." "You have 11 minutes," I said. "A verified cashier's check or confirmed transfer for 92 million won. If the funds are not cleared by then, my team removes every piece of our property from this hotel," she screamed then. Not words, just sound. One bridesmaid flinched, another looked at the floor, and that was when the door opened. Madam Choi Eun-kyung entered the room. She was not flashy. That was how you knew she was truly powerful. Her charcoal silk dress had no visible logo. Her pearls were real, but modest. Her hair was neat, her posture perfect, her expression controlled in the way only people with old money and older discipline can manage. "What is happening here?" she asked. Minji lunged toward her like a drowning woman reaching for a rope. "Madam Choi, thank goodness. Seo-yoon is unstable. My family tried to keep her away because she has always been jealous of me. She forced her way in, and now she is trying to sabotage the vendors." I stood still. I could have defended myself, but I had learned that silence is sometimes the sharpest blade if you are standing on the truth. Madam Choi looked at me. Her eyes moved over my suit, my badge, my face. Then something changed. "Director Han?" she said. The room went silent. Madam Choi walked past Minji and extended her hand to me. I did not realize Han Seo-yoon and Yoon Seo-ah were the same person. "Your work for our foundation gala in Seoul was extraordinary. My board still talks about that stage." I shook her hand. "Thank you, Madam Choi." Minji looked like she had been struck. The woman she had tried to impress, the gatekeeper to the world she wanted, had just recognized the sister she called unstable as a respected professional. Madam Choi turned slowly toward Minji. "You told me she was a jealous intruder," she said. "But she appears to be the owner of the company you hired." Minji opened her mouth. Nothing useful came out. Then my father stormed in. Han Dae-sik wore a black tuxedo, and the expression of a man who believed volume could still solve facts. "Seo-yoon," he barked. "Enough. Tell your people to continue. This is a family matter. We will settle the bill next week." Yura stepped forward with her tablet. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. "Which account will you use, Mr. Han?" she asked. My father froze. "Stay out of this," he snapped. "This became my business when you tried to involve my husband in your debt," Yura said. She turned the tablet so Madam Choi could see. The Han family is insolvent. The residence loan is 96 days overdue. Credit card debt exceeds 180 million won. Available liquid assets are under 4.5 million won. The alleged pearl necklace from Madame Choi was purchased from an imitation jewelry website for 790,000 won. And the transfer receipt sent to Aurelia Event Studio is fraudulent. Madame Choi's face hardened. I gave no pearl necklace, she said. Minji made a small broken sound. My father started sweating. It is temporary, he said. Cash flow. Investments tied up. You understand these things, Madame Choi. We only needed time. I understand poverty, Madame Choi said coldly. I understand financial difficulty. What I do not understand is a family committing fraud to imitate honor. Then the groom entered. Park Tae-oh stopped at the doorway, taking in the scene. His bride crying, my father sweating, my mother pale in the corner, his mother standing beside me like a judge. Mother, he said slowly. What is going on? Madame Choi told him everything. She did not dramatize it. She did not need to. Each fact landed with more force because she spoke calmly. The fake transfer. The unpaid 92 million won. The false necklace. The debt. Minji's lie about me. Tae-oh listened without interrupting. When his mother finished, he looked at Minji. You told me your father managed private investments, he said. You told me your family was stable. I was scared. Minji sobbed. I did not want you to think less of me. I love you. Tae-oh's face changed, not with rage, but with something colder. Disgust. I could marry someone without money, he said. I cannot marry someone who built our relationship on lies. My father stepped toward him. Tae-oh, do not make a rash decision. Families handle things quietly. We can fix this. Tae-oh looked at him. Do not speak to me about family. Then he reached up, removed the white orchid boutonniere my team had designed, and placed it on the vanity beside the contract. There will be no wedding. Minji collapsed into the chair as if the bones had left her body. Tae-oh walked out with his mother. The door closed behind them with a soft click, but to Minji it must have sounded like a building falling. I looked at my watch. 11 minutes had passed. No money, no cashier's check. No miracle. Just the truth, standing in a room full of silk and fear. I turned to Nari. Begin removal. She lifted her radio. Minsu, commence breakdown. Ballroom first, then suite. Secure all Aurelia property and return to transport. A burst of static answered. Then the hotel changed. Service doors opened. My crew entered in black uniforms, moving with the calm precision of people who knew exactly what they were doing. In the ballroom, lifts rose toward the ceiling. Technicians unclipped crystal strands one by one. The white peony canopy lowered slowly, like a dream being brought down for burial. Imported orchids were removed from their frames and packed into climate-controlled crates. Silk runners were rolled up. Light panels went dark. The altar wall came apart piece by piece. What had looked like a fairy tale garden 15 minutes earlier became a cold luxury hall with blank walls and polished floors. My mother followed me into the ballroom and began crying openly. Seo-yoon, stop them, she begged. The guests are arriving. What will we tell people? I watched two workers carry away the floral arch Minji had planned to stand beneath. I do not know, I said. And for the first time in my life, that is not my problem. Minji appeared at the entrance, still in her robe, her face ruined with tears. She reached toward a crate of orchids as it passed her, as if she could physically hold on to the life she thought she was about to receive. The worker did not pause. He carried it past her and into the service elevator. There are images that stay with you forever. My sister standing barefoot in a 5-star hotel, reaching for flowers she could not afford, is one of mine. By 3:30, the ballroom was full of people and empty of beauty. 360 guests sat in a room stripped of every detail that had made it magical. No canopy, no orchids, no glowing aisle, no groom. The air felt sharp because the flowers and fabric that had softened the acoustics were gone. Every whisper bounced off the walls. Minji, my mother, and my father walked to the front like prisoners approaching a microphone. Minji had changed into her wedding dress, but the dress no longer looked powerful. It looked heavy. She gripped the microphone and forced a smile. "Thank you all for your patience," she said, her voice trembling. "Due to a sudden health issue involving Teo, we must postpone today's ceremony. We ask for privacy." The silence that followed was brutal. Rich people know logistics. They know when a story does not fit a room. If the groom had a medical emergency, his mother would not have left calmly through the VIP exit. The bride would not be standing alone in a stripped ballroom. A man in the third row took out his phone. A woman near the aisle leaned toward her friend and whispered. A rumor began moving before Minji had even lowered the microphone. By Sunday morning, the video was everywhere. Minji standing alone in the empty ballroom, lying about Teo's health. The caption changed depending on who shared it, but the meaning stayed the same. Busan wedding disaster, bride abandoned, decor repossessed, fake rich family exposed. Minji tried to recover. At 8:12 Sunday morning, she posted an edited photo from a months-old design consultation, a close-up of white orchids on silk. Her caption said, "Sometimes love chooses simplicity." Teo and I decided to pivot to a minimalist ceremony and focus on what truly matters. It took less than 20 minutes for a Busan Society blogger to comment, "There was no minimalist ceremony." The groom left before the wedding, and the event company removed the stage because your family did not pay. Everyone saw it. Minji limited comments immediately, but the screenshot was already gone. Flying through group chats, forums, social media accounts, and private circles she had spent years trying to enter. Her follower count began falling. Brands paused campaigns. Friends stopped responding. My parents deactivated their accounts by noon. The Han family, who had lived for appearances, had become a public cautionary tale. On Monday morning, Nari called me from the warehouse. "Director, what should we do with the recovered inventory?" she asked. "The flowers are still viable. The lighting equipment is intact. Standard procedure would be breakdown and storage, but the live arrangements will not last indefinitely." I looked at the design sketches spread across my desk. The stage I had made for Minji had been beautiful. That was the part I hated most. My family had polluted it with lies, but the work itself had been honest. My crew had poured skill into it. I had poured heart into it, even if I hated admitting that. "We are not throwing it away," I said. "Send half the arrangements to Busan Hope Care Children's Recovery Center. Rebuild part of the canopy in the main atrium. Send the rest to Heibaragi Women's Shelter. Use the silk runners, the orchids, the lights, everything suitable." Full installation, not a drop-off. Nari was quiet for a second. "Under whose name?" "In honor of Madame Choyun Kyung," I said. "Not the Han family. Not Minji. Not me." By Tuesday afternoon, the photos were online. A little girl in a hospital gown stood beneath a smaller version of the white flower canopy, reaching up to touch a crystal strand with both hands. Her smile was so pure it made my chest ache. The same flowers that had been meant to decorate a fraudulent wedding were now giving wonder to children who had done nothing but fight to live. At Heibaragi Shelter, women ate dinner at tables lined with white orchids and soft lights. For one evening, a place built for emergency felt like a place built for dignity. Madame Choi saw the article and understood exactly what I had done. Her foundation posted the hospital photo that afternoon with a message thanking Aurelia Events Studio and me by name. She wrote that true elegance is not measured by what we display, but by what we give when circumstances change. In the world my sister had spent her life worshipping, that public praise was a coronation. Within 48 hours, my company inbox exploded. Charity boards, hotel groups, private families, luxury planners. Everyone wanted to book the designer Madame Choi had publicly endorsed. Aurelia's waiting list stretched to 28 months. Minji had tried to use my work to enter that world. Instead, her collapse opened the door for me. 2 months later, the financial consequences hit my parents with no mercy. The bank began proceedings on their apartment. My father came under investigation for the forged transfer documentation. Yura and Junho sent a formal notice cutting off all financial contact after my father tried to use Junho's name to secure another loan. My mother left voicemails on my business line, crying, begging me to say the transfer had been a misunderstanding. I deleted them. Not angrily, not dramatically, just deleted. Minji lost the Park family, her influencer sponsors, and most of her social circle. Debt collectors began calling. The designer clothing she had used as armor became resale inventory. The woman who once called me a hired flower girl eventually found work in the artificial flower and discount lighting section of a shopping center outside the city. I saw her once. I had gone there looking for a specific storage fixture my supplier had delayed. She was wearing a store vest, scanning boxes of cheap plastic roses under fluorescent lights. Her hair was tied back. Her makeup was tired. A customer asked her whether the fake orchids came in white. Minji reached for a box, and for one brief second, I saw her face twist with the humiliation of it. The sister who mocked my work was now selling imitation flowers to strangers. I did not approach her. I did not smile. I did not offer help. I did not punish her with words. I simply turned my cart around and left. Because freedom is not standing over the people who hurt you and making sure they suffer. Freedom is realizing you no longer need to be present for their consequences. 7 months after the wedding that never happened, Aurelia Events Studio moved into a new headquarters 3 times larger than the old one. The main production floor is filled with steel frames, floral refrigeration units, lighting rigs, silk samples, and the low, focused hum of people building impossible beauty on deadline. Nari runs logistics like a general. Yura and Junho visit sometimes with lunch, and we eat at a long work table between coils of cable and boxes of imported ribbon. Nobody asks me to shrink. Nobody treats my success as an inconvenience. Nobody calls me only when they need money. In my office, I keep one small crystal strand from the Hyundai wedding canopy in a shadow box behind my desk. I did not keep it to remember Minji crying. I did not keep it to celebrate my parents losing everything. I kept it to remember the exact day I stopped waiting for an invitation from a family that only wanted me in the room when I was useful and invisible. For years, I believed that if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, gave enough, forgave enough, one day they would see me. But some people are not blind because you are dim. They are blind because your light threatens the darkness they are trying to protect. I did not destroy my family. I simply stopped holding up their lies. When I pulled my hands away, the whole structure collapsed on its own. So if you are listening to this, and you know what it feels like to be the shadow child, the emergency wallet, the silent worker behind someone else's spotlight, hear me clearly. You do not owe anyone your light. You do not have to keep funding people who are embarrassed by you until they need you. You do not have to burn yourself alive to keep a cold family warm. If a table only has room for you when you are small, leave it. Build your own room. Hang your own lights. Grow your own garden. And when the people who mocked you finally realize they were standing under a roof you built, do not argue. Do not beg. Do not explain your worth to people who benefited from pretending not to see it. Pick up the radio. Give the order. Take back what is yours. Then walk into the life you built and let them watch you shine from the outside.